All right, guys, we're going back in. Hey, guys, this is Kneon. I'm here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
Welcome back to Clownfish TV. We're going to talk about comic books, the comic book industry, the personalities in the comic book industry, and how it seems like some comic pros, including Mark Waid, would rather see the comic book industry burn to the ground than to share it with people they don't like.
I'm sorry. Comic writer Mark Waid accuses Mark Millar, is it Millar or Millar, of attacking
Millar, yeah.
Gail Simone. Gail Simone attacks people all the time.
Yeah.
She tried this shit with me and got herself ratioed really hard, really fast. She's always attacking somebody or causing some kind of crap.
This whole thing, like, this is kind of a follow-up to a video I did the other day talking about the cancel pigs discussion. I'm going to call it a discussion in comics right now. And all the people that have been causing a lot of drama in the comic book industry for the last 5 or 6 years are completely melding down on social media.
What it reminds me of is that meme where the woman's shoveling shit over the fence, and then it's all come back at her, and they're like, "Oh, misogyny." That's what it reminds me of.
That was from Gamergate.
Or opinions,
yeah. And that is very appropriate here. So we're going to talk about this because apparently Mark Waid on Facebook said that he would rather see the comic book industry burn down than to share it with the quote-unquote alt-right.
I'd rather see it be destroyed if I can't have it.
That's exactly what it is.
This is also Mark Waid, who was in trouble legally for tortious interference because he went around trying to get someone's deal canceled because he didn't like the person.
Yeah, so Waid has basically set himself up as the gatekeeper of comics. I mean, this is. I guess it shouldn't shock me because the guy has notoriously had a temper. But a lot of people say he has a temper. We've actually.
Wasn't he a redhead?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, well, that's probably why.
But I'm just saying, we've dealt with Mark before. I've actually.
He said I was a good writer once upon a time. He won't say it now because we're alt-right, even though we aren't Republican.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I personally, I want to be clear, I personally have never had a negative interaction with Mark, but Mark's behavior is sort of what was the catalyst to pushing us into talking about comics and all the drama around the industry and speaking up about our own experiences, because he basically decided he was going to set himself up as being a gatekeeper for the comic book industry, and it's like way out of his reach.
I know when we started talking about this back in the day, that's when there was rumors of like these back, alley networks and the whisper networks and stuff.
The back alley clinics of the comic book industry.
Remember I used to joke, I was like, if a hero doesn't work in the shadows, usually that's associated with the villain, and that's what these people were doing. And I was, a little bit put off by the whole thing.
Yeah, he basically, I mean, this is what blows my mind about this. Now, I don't know if anybody has actually pulled him aside to say, hey, Mark, you actually come across like a comic book villain. Like some of the stuff he says and how he says it, I'm like, there's just such a disconnect from reality. I mean, if I were a comic book retailer and I looked at the behavior of the people associated with the comic book industry and the disdain that a lot of them seem to have. Now, Waid actually was, I believe, in some organization. Because he has a comic shop. It'd
be a real shame if we would kick you out and not let you carry books because you carry the wrong people's books.
Yeah, he threatened the Antarctic Press over Diversity in Comics, Zach's book, and it was absolutely insane. That led to a lawsuit. And a lot of this nonsense, this cancel culture nonsense, died down for a while. And then now it's really ramping back up again because you have somebody like Mark Millar coming out and calling it out. It's been going on for like 6 years. I mean, it's interesting. I retweeted something he said on Twitter, and I'm like, dude, like this stuff has been going on. Like, I'm not knocking the guy, but I'm just saying, like, this stuff's been going on for like 6 or 7 years now. And a lot of us have taken our lumps over it. Now, we haven't as much as other people because we only sort of keep tabs on the comic book industry. And it has gotten absolutely just batshit. But, yeah.
I think it's what gets me, too. It's like you're not fighting over something that there's like a lot of people. You guys drove so many people out of it.
Yeah.
And so many readers away. It's like you're literally fighting over the crumb, what was the cookie. And I just don't understand it.
Picking the carcass of the comic book industry.
People are making their own cookies. They're not even eating your cookies anymore.
No, it is sad because, yeah, it's gotten to a place where either you had a lot of fans just walk away from comics completely. You've had retailers go out of business. You've had people just nope out of it altogether. They're like, comics, there's too much drama. I don't want anything to do with this. And meanwhile, the people that, the younger people that would be reading American comic books, now they're reading manga and graphic novels, I think, in part because of all the freaking drama around it, or they just don't want to read the the books are being put out. I mean, you've got characters being changed for no reason whatsoever. They keep renumbering things, resetting things, tons of variant
They've been
covers.
doing that for years, to be fair.
Yeah, but they've really been ramping it up because of desperation. But let's talk about this. Let's talk about what's being said. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. Guys, get woohoo if you do.
Woohoo.
Yeah, so this is coming from Bleeding Full. And Mark Millar said that the cancel pigs, that's what he's calling these people, the cancel pigs have come after him hard because he stood up for this retailer, which we talked about. We did that video, Glenn O'Leary, right? And now we've got Mark Waid weighing in on Facebook, apparently, saying that Mark Millar is kind of a washed-up has-been, even though he's got a fat Netflix deal and just got picked up by Dark Horse. But okay. Waid said, and like a falling star rocketing across the sky, another former comic superstar whose heat is fading.
But I would argue that Mark's heat faded a long time ago. I mean, isn't that kind of like, pot kettle at this point?
Pretty much.
Does anybody give a shit about Mark Waid?
I think
Mark Waid?
I think a lot of people have walked away from him because of this behavior. He says he's choosing to cry for attention by blaming the industry, his peers, and the audience, rather than taking stock of his own professional progress, admitting that we are often the authors of our own fate and finding the courage to reinvent himself and stay relevant. What?
Wait.
What?
Wait. So
what?
He's blaming everybody else for comics failing except for himself. Except for the fact that everybody's been calling this out for years and they aren't him. And if he's not relevant anymore, why does he have new deals?
That is true.
For big things and not just little comics.
Well, that's the thing, because actually Millar has admitted that most of his income now comes from other media. It does not come from comic books.
So does ours.
Yeah.
We stopped doing comics and chasing publishing deals. We had the big time agent and everything because the money wasn't there.
Right. So we started some other things, and now we can do comics on our own terms. We can do the comics we want to do on our own terms, not have to play games with these people, right? So he's like, it's really not that hard. My star's not going to burn forever. It's already burned out.
It's already done, dude.
No one's does. And accepting that fact gracefully is a sign of emotional maturity. But if I ever become that guy, every single one of you has permission to slap me upside the head and force me to reread the above paragraph as many times as it takes to sink in.
Roll my sleeves up. All right, Mark, get the punch you across the head. Sounds like a plan.
Oh my God.
Mark, I just, okay, look, I don't always agree with, certain people all the time, but I just don't understand this. It's like, to me, that just seems like really ridiculously hypocritical. Like, oh, he burned out because he's an old has-been. And I'm just like, yeah. And what are you? And you're a white guy in the comic industry. And I remember him getting in big fucking trouble because he was going to do a character that was a black character, and people didn't want him writing it because they said that, how dare he because he's not black, and he did it anyway. Wouldn't that make him a racist, the terrible person like accused everybody else of being?
Yeah.
I remember that whole situation.
So somebody jumps into this rant and says, I love your work, Mark, but it seems anyone who tries to highlight the issues that the industry is facing either gets piled on, or in this case, his star is fading and looking for attention.
Yes.
He just signed it. Didn't he just sign another deal? Like, Mark Millar is one of the few people in comics that are actually doing well now. Mark said he hasn't relied on income from comics for a long time. That's true. See, rather than this tit for tat that we're seeing throughout the fandom, maybe people should actually try to get together and fix what's wrong. I agree with you, Stephen McKee. I am by no means an expert, only a consumer. But this doesn't seem to be helping matters any. Okay, Mark says to him, get this. I think a lot of us would just rather see the industry burn down than get together with the alt-right.
So wait.
I know I would, sorry.
Okay, wait. So he just got done, Stephen here just got done saying that anybody who highlights an issue in industry gets dogpiled or, mocked or labeled, okay, which is, he's correct. It doesn't matter. You don't even have to be, Republican. You're automatically labeled so that people like Mark Waid can discredit you and feel happy about doing so. And then he just doubles down on the same stupidity in the first sentence. I thought he was a writer. I thought reading comprehension was a thing.
Mark Waid's brain has been pickled by politics.
I was say by his own bullshit. But
well, I think he's in an echo chamber. I think he's got one.
Yeah. And I call bullshit at anyone who tries to highlight the issues and get piled on. Okay, Mark. You're full of shit, Mark. Because I'm gonna fucking tell you right now, I don't really care. I'm so fucking over this shit. While all we did Okay, the reason we're even doing these videos, because all that was done on our end, we did nothing except for Kneon wrote an article on a blog that wasn't even about comics, that was Disney related, talking about Marvel numbers and wondering what the issues were with some things. Because of said article, we got dogpiled and called names and labeled, and all this shit you're saying doesn't happen.
By your friends. Your friends.
But they are friends.
Yeah, they were once our friends. They're not our friends.
Following us,
yes.
or didn't speak to us, or suddenly were like writing us and like, you can't say that. And we didn't even know anything about Comicsgate. We're like, what the hell are you talking about? This is just pointing out the obvious.
Yeah, okay? I had no idea what was going on.
Well, that's all we did. It's been years of proof of this, that there has been a problem. Sales are dwindling and declining. People don't like the cheap ass self-insert characters or lazy ass race and gender swaps that they continuously do. And you lost your core audience. Then you sit there and tell everybody else that they're full of shit. It doesn't happen. And then when people then say that people don't get piled on when they highlight issues. Bullshit. I think it's far more accurate to say anyone who wants to blame anything on SJWs gets piled on. Or anyone who wants to complain that their favorite characters are being written as political mouthpieces can provide examples of being piled on. There are tons of examples out there, Mark. There's tons of examples. And all we said was, hey, Marvel numbers are bad. We just don't agree with you because you're so narrow-minded, so myopic, and so up your own asshole that you keep thinking if people don't agree with you, it's because you have to label them as some derogatory term because you can't wrap your head around the fact that they might identify a lot of the same way as you do, but they don't agree with you. So they have to clearly be a villain of some kind. And that's my professional opinion. If you wanted my opinion before about what you do with your stuff, you can just shove it up your ass.
Holy shit.
Doesn't happen.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry. You may continue.
Okay, can I? I was gonna go. I was gonna go make some popcorn.
I'm not gonna talk anymore.
All right. So yeah, this is.
I say that, but I'll talk more.
Actually, in a roundabout way, I'm gonna be honest. Thank you, Mark Waid, because you helped Clownfish TV happen because of your idiocy and overreach. In regards to that situation with diversity in comics, that nobody has a right to try to keep somebody out of the comic book industry the way that you did, that you were going to call in every favor you could call in to keep somebody.
But that doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen. Yes, there's documented proof. This absolutely happened. There were threats made. It's tortious interference. I'm sorry. That was massive overreach. And 20, 30 years ago, the entire comic book industry would have turned against you because that was just completely uncalled for. But, here we are in current year comics and it's actually condoned. And this is what's shocking, I think, Mark Millar, is that he's like, holy hell, I didn't realize things were this bad. Because he's kind of in his ivory tower off with his Netflix deals that Mark Waid's never going to get. So anyway, Stephen McKee. The way Glenn O'Leary, that was the retailer, right, that was mocked for his appearance because all he said was, write the characters that you're paid to write them like themselves and don't make them self-inserts. Because we, as retailers, can't sell them. Nobody wants that stuff.
They don't want to hear about the character, not about you.
Right. The way Glenn O'Leary was treated was disgusting just for airing his views on his experience as a trader and what he thought of modern books. I've seen a lot of examples on Twitter as well. This goes both ways. There's toxicity on both sides.
Agree.
I'm not
totally agree.
Yeah, I'm not here to argue. I just gave my views on what I see. I'll continue to buy my books, but the toxicity I mentioned, I can't be bothered with to the point I'm going to remove myself from a lot of the places I see it happening. And look, to have somebody like Mark Waid come out and basically say that he would rather see the comic book industry burn down than get together with the alt-right, to these people, to this group of canceled pigs, as they've been labeled. The alt-right is anybody that doesn't agree with what's going on in mainstream comics right now.
That's exactly what it is.
You can't have a nuanced discussion. You can't mention it at all. I mean, hell, we bring stuff up on Twitter and all the usual suspects or the flags or whatever, they come out of the woodwork and they're like sock puppet accounts. They're like, oh, you're a bigot. And it's like, all I said was there's no history in the X-Men comics of Iceman being flamboyantly gay until they decided to make him flamboyantly gay. That's not saying I have a problem with flamboyantly gay people. I'm saying that's not Bobby Drake. And they did it just to get high fives and shock value. And that's what these publishers keep doing. Tim Drake,
I remember it was
not gay.
Hispanic Heritage Month when they all were carrying Mexican food.
Yeah, it was like they all went to Taco Bell or something.
Hell?
It's like, what the hell are you doing?
Or like when they had the black guy for the Thor thing by Odin's Fade. We're like, this is stupid. People, and I know that's something else these people don't understand. They have in their head that if you don't agree with them, it's all white straight guys, and they're all Republicans. And it's like, but there are a lot of women who don't agree with you, Mark. There are a lot of people that aren't white who don't agree with you. There are a lot of people who aren't straight that don't agree with you. Are they all alt-right bigots too, Mark?
Yeah, so this is like, again, a lot of the usual suspects. Mark Waid's now defending Gail Simone. So there are a couple names that since the beginning of all this internet controversy, right? These people getting ass mad about YouTubers being critical of the direction the comics were going in. A couple names keep coming up again and again and again, and two of those names are Mark Waid and Gail Simone. And I
told you again, Gail Simone tried to start shit with me, and that didn't get very far.
Now they're trying to now Gail Simone was trying to sort of defend Glenn O'Leary, but I'm like, it's kind of late at this point. Like, you needed to call off your friends. You needed to stop, just because you didn't like what somebody said, you needed to stop the attempt to get people canceled, because Mark Waid is the father of Comicsgate. He is I'll go on record as saying that. He is the father of I
would agree with that.
It was him going after Zach that really ramped up the anti-industry sentiment. So if retailers, editors, publishers, artists, writers, if you want to look at the decline of the modern comic book industry and the negative feelings associated with the modern comic book industry, look at Mark Waid. And look at that controversy.
It was going on before that, though. They can't blame
it was brewing, but
he
took it to a whole nother level.
He's the one that actually polarized everyone.
Yes.
But it was already going on before that, which is why people were starting to be like, wait a minute, what is this stuff and what's going on?
Well, that's
and
just
then
it.
He's the one that actually, took it and split it in half and caused the polarization by his behavior.
There was a lot bubbling under the surface, but going out of your way and publicly declaring that you were going to blacklist individuals from the industry, like you had that kind of power, is really what busted the whole thing wide open.
Well, and there was rumors that there was whole groups of people that were going to go try to cause problems for people because they didn't do they weren't the right kind of people or the right thing. And, we know the Whisper Networks and all that stuff was going on. Here's what gets me. I don't understand this, and I still can't understand this day. And it's probably because I'm a different generation, but Mark would be too. Is the fact that people have to be either wholly on one side or wholly on the other. You cannot agree with one side on one thing and the other side with the other thing. You have to be split down the middle exactly, and you have to pick a side. But the reality is people are much more nuanced than that. Like, you might agree with this political thing, but not that one. And some people are hard on both sides, but the majority of people, I think, are in the middle, and they might lean one way or the other, but they don't completely discredit either side. That they might say, I agree with you here, I don't agree with you here, and everyone's different. But you aren't allowed to be that way. You have to pick a side. And this mentality like Mark Waid has demands that you choose a side, or you're not with me, you're against me. Well, I'm just like, there's no reason why everybody can't work together to come to some kind of way to save the industry, because it's failing.
I think that there was an opportunity, and I think I did a video with Aaron Sparrow a couple of years ago. There was I forget the guys. Ironically enough, I forget. I think it's Dan Shaheen. But ironically enough, given all the discussion, his avatar on his YouTube channel was a pig. I remember being a pig, and that was like a couple of years before the whole cancel pig thing. But he actually had a whole bunch of people from the comic book industry. He had, I think, Mike Richardson from Dark Horse was there. He had, I think, Steve Jeppy was there. He had a bunch of people. The usual suspects were in the comments. He had a meltdown because Zach showed up in the comments, even though he didn't say a damn thing. He dared show up in the comments section, and the whole thing just came off the fucking rails. So there have been attempts in the past to try to sit down and figure out what the hell is wrong with comics. But the reality is I don't think a lot of the people working in comics right now really want comics fixed, because if it...
Well, he just said as much.
I mean, he's basically just said, yeah, it's our way or the highway. That's it.
We can't have it our way, that we don't want it to be there at all.
Then we don't want it at all.
Good news for him. You and your friends have pretty much effectively destroyed it. So, you might get your wish.
Yeah, how can this guy, this is what gets me, how can this guy be in a network or in charge of a retailers association when he's flat out saying he would rather see the comic book industry burn down than let somebody like Mark Millar come in and attempt to try to figure out what's going on, course correct. The problem is that
well, he wants to be the one that's the head.
He wants to be, yeah.
He wants to be in charge.
Yeah. I mean, Millar has everything I think that Waid wanted and Waid didn't get.
Nah, his stars almost faded.
His stars
He is just barely there.
He's barely there. And now it's like, well, Gail helped him get his thing and whatever. But yeah, I mean, this guy here was Ryan Higgins, Mark Millar going full CG going after Gail. What? Oh no, because yeah, well, here's the truth. The truth is Gail's name comes up. I don't know the full details. There are people out there that pay a hell of a lot.
This isn't even what happened. He said that he said, someone sent me a link to this. Some guy who has a blog put these messages together and created his own narrative. He goes, I already talked to Gail and asked her to remove the tweets. I don't do Facebook. Someone could pass this along to Waid. That'd be helpful. It sounds like he's trying to get with everybody to be like, hey, let's figure this out, which is where I think we should be. If I'm going to be completely honest with you, even though Waid still think you can stick things up your ass right now.
There's always OnlyFans if comics doesn't work out.
I mean, it sounds like this was all generated. Imagine that. A false narrative he presented as reality. Shocker. Never happens. Never happens at all.
It's just, I mean, it's just sad to see. Like, comics has always been a weird industry. It's always been weird, but at least there was some attempt at professionalism. And it's just gone. Like, we've got lunatics running the freaking asylum at this point. We've got, I mean, people that are legit mentally ill calling the shots in the comic book industry. And then the retailers have to suffer. The readers suffer. And then everybody complains about being poor. I'm like, well, the reason you're poor is nobody's buying the comics. They can't pay you more if nobody's buying the comics. And they're basically on the edge at this point. Like, Marvel or Warner Brothers, and we'll do a video talking about Warner Brothers. Marvel or Warner Brothers could just decide at some point to shut down, Marvel Comics or DC Comics, and just outsource the stuff.
What they need to do, and these different publishers need to do, is they need to get like a group together of people who actually have been doing it for years, people who have an actual, actually sell comics,
Yeah.
and they need to start to get and on both sides. And they need to sit down and be like, what can we do to fix the situation in a fair way?
That's what Millar was trying to do with retailers. He's basically trying to get retailers, and he is stealing Waid's thunder because Waid was supposed to be in charge of this retailers group or whatever, or he was a big wig in that group.
It'd be a real shame if they all didn't get books because they pissed
it'd be a real
off.
shame there, Antarctic Press, if I told all my retailer friends not to order your stuff. Well, I think he's probably running out of retailer friends because so many shops have gone out of business, and it's dire. I mean, the situation is that there is no time to argue amongst yourselves over politics or whatever. If you guys actually actively want to work in the comic book industry, shit's got to get fixed. It's got to get fixed now. There's no time for petty bullshit. But again, you've got Waid out there basically saying, I don't give a shit. I'd rather see it just burn down. Hell, if I were a publisher, I would never hire him. I'd be like, you want the comic book industry to burn down. Are you fucking kidding me?
So you're basically admitting that you're deliberately stoking the flames to try to get it to burn down.
Yeah, because then, you don't get it, but nobody else gets it either. Like, that's crazy. That's just insane. Like, how much do you love comics? I mean, really, how much do you actually love comics? How much do you love comic retailers? How much do you love your peers if you're totally cool being the elder statesman of comics and going out there and saying, I'd rather just burn the shit down? I mean, come the fuck on. Who the hell would say that? I just blows my mind. It's like, so that right there tells you exactly what the mindset is of a lot of these people. They'd rather just burn the fucking thing down completely than let guys like Ethan Van Sciver have it.
But here's the thing, though. But that's not even the people. That's everybody who's not on their side is alt-right.
Yeah.
Everybody, and if you're not Republican, you're alt-right because they said so. Because I can't wrap my tiny brain around the thought that most people are nuanced and they might agree with like this part on this side and this part on that side, and they aren't all or nothing. That makes this person can't wrap their head around the idea. They have to simplify you down to some hate group term that they assign you to make them feel better about the fact that you don't agree with their opinion because they're so like insecure about their own opinion or themselves that they have to make themselves feel better. On hating on you.
I don't know, guys. I don't even know what to say. I personally, we do not even really have a dog in this fight anymore. We make comics on our own terms. we don't have to deal with these crazy ass people. And we dealt with these crazy ass people for years. And that's part of why we walked away from the industry, because we're like, it's gamed, it's rigged. You have to be a certain person vetted by other people to get in. You got to make sure that you throw up the proper flags, the proper language, whatever, so everybody knows you're one of the in crowd, right? But you also need to know your place. You need to know your place. And, it's just, it's ridiculous. It's we've run out of time. I'm going to be honest. I appreciate what Mark Millar is trying to do. I don't think the comic book industry as it is right now can be saved. I think it needs to be raised and probably rebuilt, from the ground up. I don't think there is any saving it at this point.
I don't think that people care about it.
I think that's it. I think all the people that would have read comics, they noped out for various reasons.
They moved on to manga.
They moved on to manga at this point. So whatever, comics as an art form will continue. You just won't be part of it. So we're going to wrap this up.
Yep.
Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We'll talk later.
Bye.